Hey there, introverts and deep thinkers. Welcome to Introverts Unmuted, the podcast where we prove that quiet doesn't mean invisible and deep thoughts deserve a mic. If you've ever felt drained by small talk, mastered the art of sneaking out of the room, or wished the world understood the magic of solitude, this is your space. We're diving into everything from navigating social energy to embracing creativity, confidence, and the unique power of being an introvert. So get comfy, plug in, and let's turn up the volume on our quiet confidence. I'm Amber Hansel, and this is Introverts Unmuted. Today, I have with me Rachel, and she is an email marketing and launch specialist. Welcome.
Hello, I'm so excited for this.
I know. I am so excited to chat. We are going to be talking about buyer psychology in email marketing, and I have briefly touched on buyer types in a previous episode, but not with relation to email marketing, which I feel like gets left alone in its own little section. So what brought you into email marketing?
Yeah, you're so right. It kind of gets left behind. I think because we don't see it happen so much. Like social is very loud and in our face, and we're always seeing everyone's social posts, but we do not see emails doing all the work, but they are there behind the scenes. And I think I kind of fell into it really because I started doing a lot of copywriting on different projects, and I was working with marketing agencies, and they're like, hey, do you want to write these emails? And then I kind of just got into it that way. And yeah, I think working behind the scenes really made me see kind of the power of it and what really goes on.
Yeah, there really is so much power within emails that we sometimes forget what we can do with them. And I know I feel like sometimes my email list, I'm like, yeah, I send out the email, but I'm not putting enough thought and process and strategy behind it. It's like, oh yeah, I've sent out an email.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are the same, or sometimes they just copy and paste over what they've done on social. But yeah, it does require a whole different kind of thinking. Like there's a whole different strategy and approach that you can take with it. But it can sometimes be hard to know where to even start. Like it is just kind of like, oh, I'll just send an email and see what happens. And sometimes it's hard to see like how it even lands because people don't often reply to emails. So it's kind of hard to kind of know, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing is right, or should I be doing something else? It is a tricky kind of place to start, but hopefully this conversation will help people know what direction to kind of go in.
Yeah, absolutely. So most of us understand that there are different buyer types, and from expressive to analytical to driver to amiable. So really, how can we tailor our messaging in our emails so that we can take them through the entire journey? So I don't know if you want to start at the beginning, from awareness all the way to consideration and decision, because it really is a process, and figuring out, like you said, when no one's replying, but maybe they're opening and they're clicking, how can we really tailor our emails?
Yeah, so I guess there are a few different ways. And I think the first one is to look at that stages of awareness, or like there's lots of different frameworks like funnel, like marketing funnel, stages of awareness. I kind of like to think of it as just in 3 stages to kind of not overcomplicate it, because it's so easy to get lost in these frameworks and, you know, get bogged down. But essentially, you could think of it as when someone subscribes to your email list or they come into your world. There are a lot of different ways they can come in. Maybe they've been following you on social for a while, but maybe they haven't. So you kind of want to think about it as like a journey that they're going through, from when they're just getting to know you, they're getting to know the information, and then they're eventually hopefully buying from you. So I guess the first stage is more of your awareness. So here they know about you, maybe they've just signed up, maybe they have a problem, and the reason they've signed up is because you've given them some sort of solution, right? So maybe you have a guide to help with some sort of specific, pain point they have, a challenge that they're facing, and they think, okay, here's the solution, I'm going to sign up. So at this point, they kind of know they have a problem, but maybe they're not super clued up on who you are, how you can help, or what their specific solutions are available. So that's speaking to, I guess, at the start, really, what is their problem? What are they going through right now? Meeting them where they're at in that situation. And then you can start to bring them through the buyer's journey. So the next kind of stage I like to call is like the consideration phase. So this is when they know they have a problem and you've started to tell them that there is a solution for their problem. And you can start, showcasing how you've helped other people with this problem, what kind of solutions are available to them. So this is when they know there's a solution, and now you're kind of discussing what options are available, and they're making up their mind at this stage. And then you can start to bring them through into the decision phase. So they know there's a problem, they know you have a solution. Now they're trying to weigh up if this solution is the right one for them, or which one of your solutions is the right one, or if they're choosing between you and someone else. This is when you're kind of helping them decide at the last stage, okay, what can you do to help them, really make that decision at the end. So I think there's a few different content. So at the beginning, like I say, very problem awareness content, speaking to their problem. When you're getting through into the consideration phase, this is when you want to start bringing like case studies in and showing how you've helped other people do this problem. And then when you're getting through to kind of closer to the decision making stage, this is where you'll probably do like objection handling content. So things that are stopping them from saying yes, why they're close to the decision but not quite there, like the hesitations they might be at the end. So kind of that's when someone gets on the email list, that's the kind of journey I like to take them through. Obviously it's never linear and people jump back and forth and go all over the place, but if you can bring them on that journey when they first sign up, I think that's a really good place to start.
Yeah, that I guess a lot of people do call it like a welcome sequence when they first jump on. And I also, when someone signs up, I have about 5 emails. Do you have, everyone's like 3, 5, 10. What do you find, or does it vary as per every person, just like anything else?
Yeah, it's like the question, how long is a piece of a string, isn't it? But I do think that like 5 or 6 is a really good solid place to start, because I think it gives you enough space to kind of start to introduce a lot of those emails, let them get to know you, get to know what you do, and like it gives you enough space. But then I think you kind of need to just look at the data, look at your audience and see what works. Like maybe they start to fall off after email 3, or maybe you need to make some tweaks there, or maybe they're really active throughout and you could put some more emails on the end. I think it's all about listening to what your audience is doing and then tailoring it from there.
Yeah, it's really email marketing. I think I enjoy because it's really about looking at the data and analyzing the data. A lot of times that's what it is. And going back through and going, hey, that did do well. Where are they clicking? Where are they not? Where are they scrolling? Are they not? Mm-hmm. Now, what are the best ways for us to figure out all of that data? Because it can feel really overwhelming and confusing, because we're like, okay, well, people open my emails, but they don't click anything in my emails. So what is that? What could that mean within the buyer cycle?
Yeah, I think it can get so overwhelming because it's a blessing and a curse. There's so much data we can use from email, but then a lot of people look at it and they don't know what it means. So I guess we know open rates are our first kind of signal of what to check if people are interested or not. It's a tricky one to measure because we know that some email providers like Apple Mail will like auto mark them as open. So even if someone's opened it, it doesn't like not always mean that they actually have opened and read it. So that's another thing to make a note of. And I think a lot of people also get a bit concerned about their number of open rates, and they're like, oh, is it too high? Is it too low? And it's, again, really hard to say. Like if you look at industry averages, it will tell you about a 20% open rate. But I find that that's quite low in some cases. Like maybe you have got a 60% open rate and that's great for you. Obviously, the higher, the better. But it's more of looking at trends for yourself. Like if you start off with a 60% and then you're going all the way down, that's something to look at rather than being concerned about the actual number itself. So the first one, we can look at that. Okay, and obviously click rates is the next important one to look at. And I think it's important to consider what you're asking people to do from that email. So oftentimes I will send emails for clients that are really nurture-based emails. You know, it's really connection-driven. It might be a story, and maybe we're not actually pointing them to go anywhere in that email. So if it has a low click rate, it's not necessarily a bad thing. We will always try and put in clicks in certain places where it's important, because having clicks and engagement again is going to help you with your sender reputation. So making sure you're landing in the inbox where people can see you, but at the same time, don't try and place links just for the sake of it. Like, you need to think about the purpose. So what is the purpose of your emails? What are you trying to get people to do? Like those nurture-based emails, especially in the beginning, might have a few less clicks. Maybe if you're sharing resources in your welcome sequence to get people to check out your website, again, that's a good sign that they're interacting and they're interested. But again, I always come back to the purpose of that, I think. Yeah, I think those are the main two analytics you want to be checking and looking at specifically. Unsubscribes is another number, but again, I wouldn't worry too much about that one. If people are unsubscribing, I would normally take it as a good sign, is that they've looked at your content and they've said, okay, this is not for me, and I'm going to politely take myself away. So I think that's okay. If you're getting people unsubscribed, don't try and get hung up on that number, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like unsubscribes lately. I'm like, okay, great. You're just clearing my list for me, and so that I can move forward with specific emails. And so how can we really take, the buyer psychology and put it into these emails? Where along the way are we, and correlating the buyer types to them? And I guess it's about really understanding your audience so that you can tailor them to, but perhaps you don't know the buyer type yet. So how are we tailoring our nurture sequences to all the buyer types?
Yeah, and this is a tricky one because we often don't know who's in our audience, or maybe we have a good idea of who our ideal client are and how they like to buy, but we probably have a mix of them. And also, I think a lot of people, we like to sell and market the way that we like to be sold to, which sometimes isn't what our audience like to be sold to. So I know you've covered buyer types before, but we'll go through them in case someone doesn't know or they need a refresher, and then we'll talk about exactly what kind of content you can send. So I guess the first type, and I'll talk about it first because I resonate with this one a lot, is the analytical buyer. So this is your introverted buyer and your logical thinker. So I think maybe a lot of people listening will also resonate. So this one, I think it's easier to kind of identify, because this one really is the analytical buyer. So they're looking at the numbers, they want specific details. Myself, because I resonate with this one a lot, I will take a long time to make a decision, and I will think about all of the options. So I'm the kind of person who will read every single bit of a sales page. I will look at all the FAQs. Even if I don't need to, I feel like I will process all of the data and think about it logically. Like, is this a good investment? Is it not? So this person, they're going to probably take as long as they can to make the decision. Like, they're going to be the person who waits until the very last minute, the last deadline that you've put. They're going to kind of absorb all the information. So you want to have all of that available to them, all of the details, all of the breakdowns. And I think for this type of buyer, like when we have deadlines for things, sometimes it can feel pushy because we have put a deadline in and we're telling people you need to get in before the doors close. But actually, when you think about these type of buyers, they kind of need that deadline to help them make the decision, because they will take as long as they need. So that's that person. So again, coming back to emails, making sure we've got specific details of the offer in there. So what is exactly included? This very much is what are the features and the benefits, answering FAQs in the emails and on the sales page, and also specific transformation that from client case studies, where were they, what did they achieve, like very clear details for that buyer. And then, okay, so on the other side of that, still are logical thinker, but are more of a extroverted type is the driver. So these are the doers. Again, they still thrive off all of the information and the data, but they will be more of a quick decision maker. So they're probably not going to be reading every line of your sales page, but they are going to be scanning for really key things. They will thrive off you sharing specific numbers and results on your case studies. So a really quick, let's say that you're in a sales promotional period for your launch or something, and you're throwing out a really quick email that's breaking down, here's the offer, here are the quick summary top lines of what's included, here are some big transformational results, really short and sweet and to the point, a driver would see that and think, okay, great, and they will make a decision and they're in straight in. But whereas an analytical person, they're probably going to need a bit more information. So the balance there that you've got. Okay, and then let's move on to another introverted style, but this one is a more emotional buyer. So this is your amiable. So this person, again, they're going to take a longer time to reflect and make a decision, but it's less about the numbers and the specifics, and it's more about the feelings and the trust. Do they trust you as a person? Do they feel connected to you as a person? Do they feel like that you can help them and that they'll feel supported in the container when they join? And this type of buyer is a real loyal type of buyer as well. So if they bought from you before, they're probably going to buy again because they feel that connection and they trust you. So trust is a real big thing, and like safety as well. So within, you know, those emails, you really want to be reassuring them that this is the right decision. Things like stories about, let's say they have a challenge, you want to be saying, okay, you're not alone in this, like you're not alone in this challenge that you have, and here's how we've helped other people with this challenge, and like here's how I'm going to support you in the container. It's really all about support and trust, I think. So having those stories in there, again, it could be a case study, but this time you're talking more about the journey and the support of how it worked. So there's that buyer. And then on the flip side of that, another emotional type buyer, but more extroverted, is your expressive. So these are your daydreamers. These are your big thinkers, your visionaries. This person wants to see the excitement and the vision. So when you're in a launch period, really building excitement for what is coming, like teasing behind the scenes, they're going to love that anticipation and build up. And they are going to want to see you paint the picture of what's going to happen when they say yes. What is their life going to look like? Again, case studies, but it's more about the dreaming, the big picture thinking. And these people, they're like the driver in the sense that they will make a decision fast, but it needs to be, it's like an emotional, intuitive thinking. So like for me, I am not really an expressive buyer, but I know a lot of people in my audience are. So I need to kind of give them that, you know, big picture thinking and give them the vision. As opposed to what I would like to be sold to in terms of like all of the details and things. So that's kind of how I would apply it.
Yeah, I love that breakdown because it is so true, is that we have to, and with each email in your nurture sequence, there are bits of it that are going to apply to each buyer type essentially, you know, and really going, you know, at that point, then once that sequence, you can go back through and once again, look at that data and say, hey, which ones did they open? What are the subject lines? What really resonated with my audience? And, you know, you do start working. I am definitely an analytical buyer as well. And I think most introverts are, as well as a little bit of amiable, but you know, I say it always depends on what a person's buying. Because if I'm buying shoes or something, I am like a driver. I know what I want. Please don't bother me. I'm going to get what I get. But if I'm investing in a service, then it's different. I want a connection with someone. I want, you know, all the facts and I want all the data and I want to trust you.
Yeah, exactly. And like you can check, like you say, if you've put an email out, let's say it is a big picture thinking, this is, you know, what your life could look like after this. Think about all these transformations. And if no one's looking at that and no one's clicking at it, then you know, okay, maybe I don't have many expressives in my audience. Or maybe you've sent out a piece that is really like nitty gritty. Here's all the information of what's happening. And people are clicking on that one. Okay, maybe you have more analytical people in your audience. So it's really good to compare and always coming back to the data.
Yeah. And I think then going after the welcome sequence and you can kind of test your data. Then when you're sending out your regular emails, you can kind of tailor them to who is in your audience.
Yeah. And I always think like, again, it comes down to what your offer is as well and what exactly you're promoting in that period. But I think it's always good to bring in a mix of these at different times as well, because like you say, even if someone is, typically an analytical buyer, it might be that for some particular offer, they need that emotion there as well. So definitely mixing them in and making sure that you're always, kind of referring back, and for every kind of piece of email that you're putting out, whether it is a sequence or a newsletter, that you're always kind of thinking about your audience in that way.
Yeah. Do you find that introverts and are more apt to use email marketing and to recognize the buyer types and using the buyer psychology within their email marketing?
I think introverts, we probably do like email because it is so, we don't need to go on there, and there's no video, it feels more connection driven, and you're just sending an email, it's going to land in one person's inbox. It's just like a conversation with one-on-one. So I do feel like it's a really good like form for introverts to use in their business. And then I think once you know what the different buyer types are and how you can bring them in, it's definitely an easy way to kind of bring those in as well.
Yeah. What's a piece of advice that you would give to other introverts that maybe are struggling to find their voice and confidence within email marketing?
I think it's definitely, just be yourself. And that's a hard kind of a piece of advice, I guess, but it can be very easy, I think, on social media to get swept up in what everyone else is doing and jumping on trends and thinking you have to shout louder. Email is quite nice in the sense that it's going to land in someone's inbox. They're going to open it. There's less noise around it, I feel like. And it gives you a really good space to just be yourself unapologetically. People that have subscribed to your email list, they're often your most we would say your hottest leads, but I guess they're just the warmest audience in terms of they're most connected to you and what you're doing. So you can, I feel like, have more freedom to even be yourself and put out more topics that might, attract controversy on like social, or they might attract other people who don't agree, but your people in your email list are the ones that are probably going to agree the most. And again, don't be afraid of getting people unsubscribed, because it just means that they're not your people. But I think, really just lean into who you are and what makes you you is really going to connect with your subscribers even more.
Yeah, I agree that it's such it feels like your own little sacred little community that you've created that people want to be in. And I always remind, they have subscribed to you. They want to be here. And if they no longer want to be here, that's okay. And so it's just really leaning into yourself even more so that you can just say what you need to say. And it will land or it will not. And then you go look at the data and figure it out.
Yeah, and like it can be it's harder to get email subscribers than it is to like grow a following or something, because it is that people need to opt in. They don't want to like fill their inbox, so it's almost like those subscribers, they really are like the biggest fans, like they really care to be there. So you almost owe it to them just to show up and be yourself and fully just embrace that, because I think those are the people that are going to resonate the most with it. And if they don't, they will unsubscribe, which is fine.
Yeah. Speaking of opt-ins, what are you seeing lately in the space for opt-ins? Because I know this is kind of like a hot topic, because it used to be super easy just to create an opt-in and people are opting in. But now people are very specific around what they're opting into. So what are you seeing lately?
Mm-hmm. It's a tricky one. You need to give people a really good reason to subscribe. I think at the moment, a lot of things like masterclasses and events and like live things are really, I think, a good way to get people in, because they want to turn up and there's a deadline as well. Like if there's no kind of deadline, then they can sit around and they don't need to. But if there's like a masterclass or like something that's happening, a live thing, I think people are more in tune to that. In terms of like getting people to subscribe to like your newsletter, I feel like curiosity is a big thing. So like we've seen, and I see it a lot with like Substack, they will send out snippets. It's a really curiosity driven hook, and you have to pay to get the rest of it. Well, the same works elsewhere. If you're sharing like a really interesting start of a story on social, people want to read the rest, and so they'll sign up that way. So I think you just need a really strong incentive. The other thing as well that I think always kind of works and that I want to try for my own list soon, I'm in the middle of doing this, is a quiz. I think quizzes are really have always been good, and they are going to continue to be, because again, it's the curiosity part of, I want to know what the answer is to this quiz. I want to sign up and get the answer. Again, the quiz needs to be something that they will actually want to get. So you need to think about that. But yeah, I think it's always, and I guess it comes back to like solving a problem as well. Like solve a problem that they need to get the answer to. That kind of is the first point when you're thinking about an opt-in.
Yeah, I agree that a quiz, I have tried a quiz. I need to like redo it because it didn't quite, the tech behind a quiz is kind of crazy. You like, when you go to set it up, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a little bit more complicated than I thought. But I think that, and are you seeing like PDFs and kind of guides go away for opt-ins?
Yeah, it is a tricky one because I don't think, yeah, like you're right. I think they're just not as popular anymore because people, they almost don't want to sit and read PDFs anymore. They would rather watch a video. I do think that is the case, but not in every sense. Like I have a PDF, but it is email templates, and that has done really quite well. And I still constantly get people in, but it's a little bit different because it is a template and it's a lot more actionable. So I think it has to be, yeah, something tangible that they can use if it is going to be a PDF. But I don't think we have to write them off completely. I just need to think like, okay, is it tangible? Is it something they can like work through and get end result with? And then I think you can still do well with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have a PDF and I'm thinking of like reframing it. But then at the same time, earlier this year, I released a private podcast with a blog attached to it. So those that wanted to listen could listen, and those that wanted to read. And it did quite well. And I need to bring it back. And I think that's the thing with our opt-ins is we leave them. You know, we get really excited about them when we launch them, and then they just like fade off into the background. But it's something that continuously has to be promoted off, like obviously not on your email list, but like within other aspects of your business.
Yeah, and like it's great that when you launch them and they get traction, and what you really should be then doing is looking at the data, like did this work, what didn't, and optimize it and change it for next time. And maybe that means launching something very similar but different if it landed well really with your audience, or maybe it didn't and it's tried to experiment with something else. Like I think marketing in general is just experimenting. You know, when you're sending emails, when you're doing anything, you need to just try and see what works and then come back to the data and change it up again. But yeah, it is so easy to just put something out there and then just leave it alone, but you will see better results if you keep, you know, updating and changing and optimizing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really just about looking at that data and going, how can I make this better for my audience? And I think it goes back to the connection point. We want to connect with our people. So the more that we can look at the data so that we can analyze it for all the analytical buyers out there, it's really going to help you even connect with your audience more.
Yeah, and you can ask them as well. You can literally ask them what they want to see, and you should like send them a survey or just ask them to reply. Like you'll be surprised how many people will respond when you just ask them for their feedback and their input, because you know they are the person that's going to want the thing at the end of the day. So you might as well ask them for their opinion.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. I've actually filled out a few. People have sent me a survey in email. I'm on their email list, and I was like, oh yeah, absolutely, because people want to help you. And so really when it's a quick survey, people are much more apt to help.
Yeah, as long as you ask really like a specific question, make sure your questions like they have a specific answer or they're easy to answer, like then people will answer, I think.
Yeah, we don't want any like long answer paragraphs because you're not going to get that kind of response.
Yeah, exactly.
I have really enjoyed this conversation. Where can people learn more about whether it's your email template pack or how to connect with you?
Okay, so I am on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I think we'll also send a link to the template pack. So this template pack, it really is like a welcome sequence, essentially. If you've got a PDF guide or templates or a masterclass or something, you can send these emails afterwards. And I think it really gives you a good taste of like what you can include in different emails as well. Like people have come back to me and they're kind of surprised at how conversational and natural the emails feel. So I think they're a kind of great for not just the template, not just the email sequence, but for your other emails as well. So yeah, we'll link that here too.
Awesome. So I will have all the links in the show notes below. So make sure that you go connect with Rachel, grab her email. I'm probably actually going to grab it because I'm going to be redoing my nurture sequence. So it will be great to have a template to help me out with that. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I look forward to seeing your new welcome sequence.
Thank you.